Yes, hello everyone. Welcome to WD18, the Watford fan channel. Welcome to the 2021 end of season awards here on the channel. Thank you to everyone who's been patient. A few technical difficulties, but we managed to get through it, and we're buzzing for tonight. Really, really excited. We've got a packed show for you guys. We've got the signing of the season, most improved player, underrated player, team performance, individual performance, moment of the season, goal of the season, and the big one at the end, the player of the season. Of course, the official awards on Watford's YouTube channel will be broadcasted on Tuesday night with Emma Saunders, Tommy Mooney, and some special guests. So keep an eye on that. But we thought we'd do our own WD18 awards, and we put a document out, and 800 of you got involved, which is absolutely fantastic. And a big thank you to everyone who did vote and casted their vote for tonight's show. I'm joined by Sam Yuko, Elliot Murray, Hornet Shane. Sam, first off, how you doing, mate?
I love how Shane's name has just become Hornet Shane now. Just
Shane Dave. That's the official title, Shane.
Yeah,
Dave.
that is the official name. Yeah.
Get it changed on the birth certificate. Just
Sam, you look forward to tonight, mate.
Yeah, really looking forward. I'd say that this has been, in terms of the videos we've done, and we've done a lot recently, even with all the interviews, this is the one I've anticipated the most. Just it's been really good to see the variety of responses, and it should be a really good one. Hope you all enjoy it.
Yeah, Elliot, look forward to it tonight, mate.
Yeah, can't wait. I think Sam definitely deserves a shout out for putting it all together because he put the document together. He sorted all the nominees, all that sort of thing. So he definitely deserves a mention. But yeah, can't wait to get into it and to share the winners. Yeah, massive shout out to Sam. Amazing work behind the scenes. We've got he produced a document with everything on there. We've got it all sorted for tonight. Shano, pleasure to have you on, mate. It's on a Sunday, so it's not technically a Sunday night with Shane, but it's the end of season awards. You look for, and same question to you, mate. You must be buzzing for it.
Mate, do you know what? I really am. It's one of those things whereby we've had such a great season. So many people deserve so much credit, and I think this is one of the best things about doing something like this is that we get the chance to talk about these different categories and give people praise where it's due. Really, the Orns are back up at the first time of asking, and we've had such a great season, haven't we? Supporting the club from a distance. Things on this channel, of course, have changed as well, and how we bought the content and how we bought everything. And this is a season I'm going to remember for, well, hopefully forever. But it's one of those.
Just a quick one, Shane, before we get into the first award. Joe's asked, Shane's defo wearing a suit.
I'm not. I'm actually
not wearing a suit.
I'm not wearing a suit. No. I was thinking about it, but I was like, nah. I don't know. It's actually quite warm today, so I was like, no, I can't. Otherwise, I'll just be me just sweating throughout the entire thing. I did genuinely think about it though.
Yeah. No, top man. Okay, Sam, we'll go straight into the awards. The first one of which is the signing of the season. First off, do you want to maybe list who the candidates were, and then we'll kind of break down the voting from all the subscribers?
Yeah, let me just get it up. Give me a sec. Sorry.
The thing is, there was there's quite a few candidates, but there was one that's kind of taken.
Yeah,
kind of won it and just got run away with it.
The nominations are we had just lost it. 1 sec. Jeremy Ngakia, Francisco Sierralta, Stipe Peritza, William Trost-Ekong, Philip Zinkernagel, Dan Gosling, Ashraf Lazar, and Carlos Sanchez.
Okay.
And
there we go.
There were a couple of others. We were gonna, we had James Garner and Glenn Murray as well, who joined, but I didn't really think they made enough of an impact to make it into the voting. So, in third place with 2% of the vote, with Dan Gosling, massive goal away at Norwich, massive impact. He also scored at Rotherham away, always putting a shift when he came on. And, we always go back to that interview we did with Tom from Back of the Net, the Bournemouth fan channel, and hit the nail on the head with everything. He said he'll give us big goals, always 110%. So Dan Gosling came third. In second place with 3%, William Trost-Ekong. These numbers are low because, we'll come on to first, but Trost-Ekong, I think he's offered us, from what we heard from the Tom Cleverley interview, real leadership in the dressing room, was one of the people who kind of put everyone's heads together and instigated the turning point in the season, which we'll talk about later on as well. And on the whole, I know we've criticised him a couple of times, but he has been solid. And in number one, with 90% of the vote, Francisco Sierralta. And I was saying earlier to a mate that I can't think of a better centre half I've seen at Watford. And I know that will, it'll be different test for him in the Premier League. We'll probably see what he's really made of there. But in terms of an individual season or 3/4 of the season, for how much he played, I can't remember a more consistent performer who played to such a high level throughout. He lifted the ability of everyone around him and gave everyone confidence. So no surprise. And congratulations, Francisco, on winning our signing of the season.
Francisco Sierralta celebrated his birthday. Met Elton at the weekend, but obviously the big one is the signing of the season for WD18. Elliot, I wanted to just touch on Francisco because I think we can all agree, as the voting kind of reflects, he has been absolutely brilliant since he's come in that Norwich game, wasn't it, at home in Cisco Munoz' first game, and it begs the question why we didn't see him earlier, really, because he has been absolutely fantastic. Just a word on Francisco and what you've made of him this season.
Yeah, he's been like a January signing, really, hasn't he? Because he had that game, I think, Boxing Day, but then after, I think that was his first start, and after that, it was incredible from there. He's been a fantastic addition to the team. I've seen calls for him to be in the overall championship team of the season, and at first I sort of hesitated, but actually, if you look at it based on ability and sort of the peak of their powers of each championship centre half, you can make a very strong case for it. He's been absolutely fantastic from the first game he's started in. A couple of issues in the cup that we'll sort of
gloss over it.
That never happened. Yeah. But yeah, he's been.
He'd take Dawson next to him. It was
Oxford away. When was that?
Yeah.
He's made a massive impact. He's deserving of it, and I think it's widely agreed by all Watford fans that he should be the starting centre half for Watford next season, and he fully deserves it. He's immediately integrated into the team. It's clear Cisco Munoz likes him. It's clear he fits into that back line. And he seems like a fairly humble guy as well from the interviews he's done. I've spoken to him in a press conference as well. Seemed like a really nice guy from what he was saying. It had to be translated, of course. But yeah, really nice guy and fully deserving of this award.
Yeah, and Daniel Backman, didn't he mention it? He said the first time he saw Sierralta, he knew there was a player there, and Dan's judgment was absolutely bang on. He is a cracking player, Francisco Sierralta. One who will be absolutely... monumental at the back next season, hopefully. Shano, the thing that always I'm amazed at, he's 24 years of age. Yeah. I mean, the guy is an absolute monster. Do you have to kind of, I have to look, I search up his age a lot of the time. I'm like, there's no way he is 20. I mean, he's 23 this season, but he's a leader, isn't he, at the back? And we've been crying out for a centre-back like Francisco for so long.
Oh, no, absolutely. The fact that he is 24 is just mind-blowing. It's not so much. I think the age kind of plays a part in it, but it's just the consistency of his performances. And how many times have I said after a game, or you've seen tweets of Sierralta is solid. Sierralta was like a rock tonight, kind of thing. Oh my God, it's just at times it felt relentless. At times I felt like I'm just repeating myself, but that is completely down to him. Came in January, kind of started games, I guess, kind of from January. Left out the side by Ivic, people were thinking, I was thinking myself that, what's this guy really about? And, started him against Norwich on Boxing Day. I'll never forget that performance from him. I mean, he was rock solid, going up against promotion rivals, tough game as well, of course. And with the new manager, trying to get that new manager bounce going, he played such a massive role. And of course, we're going to go on to that game in a bit more detail later on, but yeah, he absolutely deserves it. But 90% of the vote is just, that is
unbelievable.
Talk about winning like an award, but this guy, there's winning it, and then there's that.
I was saying 2% truce to Kong, 3.
I can't believe it.
It feels almost insulting to them. I feel like we do need to give them a mention because they have been fantastic this season.
I think it's even more startling the fact that Trusticong is second, a man who signed in the summer, a guy who signed in January who's got 90% of that. Think about how much of an impact you've got to have for that to even. I'm speechless, honestly. I give him, and we've given him the Chilean Maldini name, and you know what, I can't wait to see him.
For me, when I watch him and I started making these comparisons, the game against Cardiff, I know he scored an own goal, but he handled Kiefer Moore so well that day. And I don't want to. I know it's not the same level, but I see so many shades of Van Dijk in now. I don't know if it's the ponytail, but it's the
Virgil van Sierralta.
I think that we never really see Sierralta make any last-ditch tackles, and I think that's just down to his positioning in the first place. That he never has to kind of end up making those last-ditch tackles. And massive credit to the Pot Zone Network again, because people, looking at it like, oh, who's this guy? And turned out to be unbelievable. So hopefully he stays around next season. I imagine there will be interest, but yeah, definitely a starter next season for me.
Yeah, I think there's been a couple of Premier League clubs from what we're reading who were interested, but I think we've got him on a long-term deal, I believe. So definitely one to look out for. And probably the guy will be building the defence around next season. Just before we move on to the next award, Elliot made a fantastic point with him going to the games, the communication aspect as well with Sierralta, the fact he can speak Italian and Spanish as well means he's linking the whole back line. So yeah, another big asset to the team. Moving on. So it started off with the signing of the season, Francisco Sierralta. Elliot, we're going to go to most improved player of the season. So if you can read out the candidates and then break down the voting from the subscribers.
Right. So if we're looking at the candidates for this one, obviously the whole squad are generally involved because it is the most improved of the whole squad. And I actually just need to get that document up.
The thing is, there's quite. That's a really interesting one because there was a couple of names that came to our mind straight away, Sam. But I think there was probably one that we all thought should get it.
Yeah,
would you agree?
Yeah, and I think we will. I mean, we'll see. I think that person did win it. I think yeah,
exclusive.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, we'll go more in depth with the individual, but I think for me, the most improved player, I think it's a reflection on the whole squad because we didn't start great, if we're being honest. I know we were getting results, but performances really weren't there. And at times it was quite worrying, thinking we're going to fall off at some point. But for like the player who did win it, Elliot's about to...
I'll tell you what, Elliot, just to jump in there, I've actually got it. I've got the candidates up here, so I'll just run through them real quick. So most improved player of the season, we've got Sierralta, Bachmann, Feminier, Cleverley, Hughes, Chalobah, João Pedro, Ismail Assar, Ken Sema, William Troost-Ekong, Adam Messina, and Joseph Hungbo. Elliot.
A lot of nominees there. A lot of very, very good nominees. And I think actually that although the result, I'm going to spoil it, it's fairly obvious. I think there are a lot of players that you can put in there, and a lot of players have improved quite drastically. In third place is one that I can agree with, definitely. It's Daniel Bachmann with 13% of the vote. I think that's a very fair point. He's come in as number one. He's filled the gloves of Ben Foster to an absolute T. He's been fantastic and barely put a foot wrong. I know there were some critics at the start of his time in goal where they said actually he's not really had much to do because of the quality of the defenders in front of him, but he was then later tested in games. And I think the game against Millwall, that all-important one where promotion was sealed, demonstrated exactly how good Daniel Bachmann has been between the sticks for Watford. And it'll be interesting to see that battle for the number one shirt next season between Ben Foster and Daniel Bachmann. In second place, it's a familiar name. It is Francisco Sierralta. Again, the expectations weren't particularly high. He was a player that came in actually under the radar from Udinese because I remember at the time that the signing wasn't announced and we had that behind closed doors Scunthorpe game. We had it all under wraps. Everyone was like, who's this ponytailed figure that's in the Watford back line? No one had any clue who he was. We were all doing sort of our own investigations on Twitter and on social media. So he's second with 16% of the vote. Again, very well deserved. So congratulations, Francisco. And then in first place, I don't think there's any debate here. With 54% of the vote, that's a landslide. It's Nathaniel Chalobah. He's come on leaps and bounds. We know the quality of Nathaniel Chalobah. We know how good he is and how good he can be. And he's demonstrated that, particularly in the second half of this season. He's absolutely pretty much wiped the floor with many of the other midfielders in the league. He's not necessarily the furthest back now that Will Hughes has enjoyed his role. But he really makes an impact. And we've seen when he's not been in the squad, when he's maybe been suspended or injured, that the team isn't quite the same without him. So massively deserved. Well done, Nathaniel, if you're watching.
Nate, what a legend. No, I absolutely echo everything Elliot said there on Nathaniel Chalobah. Shane, actually, I wanted to get your thoughts on Nate, because I think Troy mentioned it in the promotion special on Hive Live. You know, Nate's gone from a boy to a man this season. I think... Do you think the captain's armband has played a massive part in that kind of the evolution of Nathaniel? Yeah,
absolutely. I think he's had to kind of deputise in there for Troy. I think he's kind of made him grow up a little bit, really, hasn't it? There were times I think earlier on in the season, and I was just thinking about him, thinking whether he'd actually get back to his old self. Would he be the all-action Nathaniel Chalobah, the one that we thought we saw in the early part of the 17-18 season under Silva? And for a while, I'm not going to lie, I didn't think that player was going to come, but been given the captain's armband. He's stepped up massively in this team. You know, he's been driving that midfield. I think it helps when he's playing alongside the likes of Will Hughes. He's got someone there. They've got an understanding. They've got a proper connection. And you know, I'm very proud of him actually, because it can't have been easy to have been going on, you know, a relatively not so much poor run of form, but you know, not really turning kind of heads necessarily, and you know, not doing what I think we all know he can do. And I'm so pleased for him. And this is a big season now. Can he take this? Can he take what he's learned and kind of harness it next season in the Premier League, where the midfield battles are going to be tougher? He may be coming up against players that are maybe technically better than him, but can he hold his own? And can he improve? I think for one, he definitely can improve. And I think for Troy to come out and say that this is the season he's gone from boy to a man, I think that's a huge compliment for someone. Absolutely massive compliment. And of course, on social media, seeing him go out to the fans and, you know, just shouting yours at the top of his voice. I mean, that it just shows, doesn't it?
Yeah, I actually remember Nigel Pearson, I think it was after the Bournemouth game, saying Nate has a real emotional attachment to Watford Football Club. And just on this season, Sam, you know, big moments, particularly in the second half of the season, and he stepped up. The Cardiff goal, the Preston goal, the header against Birmingham when he was captain as well. Just on Nate, how impressed have you been with him this season? And as you mentioned, the evolution of Nate from the start to the end of the season.
Yeah, I really have to hold my hands up with it, because I was one of his fiercest critics at the start of the season. I'd say up until really Xisco came in, I just didn't really feel like it was the Nathaniel Chalobah we were meant to have signed, the one we saw at Southampton away. We saw a couple of glimpses, maybe against Preston, but then the next week it would just be really, really off. But it's the change of shape in particular. It's just, you know, he's exploded. He's become one of the most important players to this Watford squad. And I feel like we only really saw this when he was injured for a couple of games and he came out of the team, and we were all saying, we're missing Chalobah here, aren't we? And yeah, absolutely massive. I'm buzzing that he proved me wrong more than anything else. And he shut me up. And yeah, I feel like, and I feel like being in the Premier League will only help him grow. And we were saying actually just before, we were just saying off air that he's one who could really force his way back into the England squad as well, hopefully, if he carries on his form next season.
Fingers crossed. So, most improved player of the season, presented by Elliot Murray, is Nathaniel Chalobah. We'll move on to the third award, Shano. Underrated player of the season, which I don't think is an official award on the Watford website. But I think as fans, there's some players who do go under the radar a little bit and have had a really big impact on this Watford squad. So before you reveal the winner, Shano, I just wanted to read through the candidates. We've got Francisco Sierralta. Oh, no, sorry, not on player of the season, most improved. He's on it as well. Underrated player, Sierralta, Backman, Kiko, Cleverley, Hughesy, Chalobah, João Pedro, Ismail Assar, Ken Sema, Adam Messina, and William Trues-de-Kong. Shano, take it away, buddy.
All right, so here we go. Underrated player of the year, 2020-21. Have to remind everyone of the season.
Love it.
In third spot, with 11% of the votes, we have Austria's finest, Daniel Backman. Very, very well deserved in that respect. In second,
cool. That's the worst one.
He's building up the suspense here, Shano. I'll tell you what, that is the suspense. Shano knows what he's doing here. He's keeping everyone waiting.
So much that he's left in time.
There we go.
Shano, have we still got you?
Yeah.
Shano, we got to second place and then it cut out. So carry on, mate.
Second spot, Francisco Sierralta, 14% of the vote. The man is everywhere. He's all over our backline. He's all over this award so far.
Can we even call him underrated? That's the thing. That's what I was, because, you know, we've been talking about for the first 20 minutes about how good Sierralta is. It's just probably people don't appreciate how good he actually is as well.
I guess to opposition fans, you know, no one really puts
the fact he isn't. Agreed, 100%.
Even the likes of Helic, but yeah, he's head and shoulders above most of the centre-backs, if not all of them, in the Championship this season.
Shano, who's the winner? Underrated?
The winner is one that I actually do agree with, and one that I think a lot of people will agree with. The 27% of the vote, it's Mr. Tom Cleverley.
Hey, Clevs.
Clevs. And you know what? It's one that I actually do agree with, because it's one that I've, you know, when I'm talking about, you know, when I do watch, you know, the EFL highlights and all that. They always ask, who's one player for Watford today who stood out, who you didn't expect to. Cleverly always gets a mention for some reason. Hughes, Chalobah, João Pedro, Ismail Assar, those kind of players, you kind of expect them to put in a great performance. Will Hughes has been called out many times as being one of the best in this division. Cleverly's work rate goes so under the radar. I think that's one of the reasons why he's got 27% of the vote here. In fact, I'd almost go as far as to say, looking at the vote breakdown, I'm surprised it's not more, really. Again, that kind of depends on whether or not you think he's underrated or not, really. But no, I think his performances this season have been fantastic. I feel like in the midfield, when he doesn't play, we lose a little bit of that balance in there. And I comment on it so many times. I'm like, we need Klebs back here. It kind of goes for all of our midfielders, really, doesn't it? You think about Hughes, you think about Chalobah, you're like, well, we need this guy, we need that guy. All three of them, I think, have been integral to this season. But I guess Cleverly wins it on the basis that we don't talk about him anywhere near as much as Hughes and Chalobah, perhaps. But fair play to Klebs. Congratulations as well to him. I know he's going to be a father in the not-so-distant future. So bright things on the horizon. But, of course, this is far and away the biggest moment of his entire career. So what a moment.
That's made the weekend.
Shaylo, unbelievable. That speech, Shaylo, what a guy. I tell you what, the comments is full of Cleverly chat. Daniel in the comments says, Cleverly never gets enough credit. He should get it. Alex has gone King Klebs. Freddie, Cleverly has a lot of energy in midfield. I think you made a fantastic point, Shaylo, about when Cleverly plays and he's on it, he sets the tempo of a whole football match. I think the game that stands out for me was Norwich away. In what was arguably the biggest game of the season, and he turned up, and he hadn't played a lot of football as well. We know, I think it was strapping around his right knee. But he just set the tone with Dan Gosling, and Klebs is, I think he's a deserved winner. And actually, sorry, Shane,
one of those games, I think the Norwich away game, and we'll go on and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, in a lot more depth later on. But it's one of those games whereby you needed the more experienced players, the big players in that midfield to really kind of drive at that Norwich midfield. You needed them to be on. Basically, we needed them to perform. We're more than aware of their capabilities, but they had to do it in what was such a pressurised game for Watford. And we'll go on and talk about that game, but that game proved to be such a pivotal moment, I think, in our season. And Klebs was a big reason as to why it was.
Absolutely. Sam, I just wanted to get your thoughts on this comments from Lou Ons, who says Klebs is more underappreciated than underrated. What do you make of that?
Little ones with the difficult questions. I think there is a bit of both with that. I feel like they kind of are. Both of them are very similar, being underappreciated and underrated. I think Watford fans probably do know his ability, and that probably comes underrated. But it's his work ethic and that kind of thing which goes under the radar a bit. But I feel like, as I've said a lot this season, without effort and desire, there is no ability there, and it doesn't matter how good you are. Which is why I personally think that Klebs is incredibly underrated, and I think we will talk about this later on. But for me, he is a starter in the Premier League, despite his age, despite his injuries. I feel like it's so important to have Cleverly in the Watford side.
Elliot, it's been mentioned a lot this season about that meeting after the Coventry game, and when we spoke to Klebs this season in that chat, I got the impression that he's been absolutely instrumental in the turnaround at Watford from, I think the first half of the season. I think, Sam, you mentioned it about this team. We didn't really have a connection with the team, or we were doing okay, but we were definitely playing below maybe our capability. But that moment where he and Troost-Ekong, as you mentioned, kind of orchestrated it, it just felt like from that moment at that interview, there was an underlying confidence that we would go up. Did you get that impression with Klebs in that interview? Because he just seemed, the positivity in the camp had just been lifted to that next level. But did you think after that interview with Klebs that we'd get promoted?
That's a big statement. I'm not sure if I thought from the outright that we'd be promoted, but I agree that he was a massive part of that. I think he's clearly very modest. I think he played down his influence and said that William Troost-Ekong led it. I'm sure Troost-Ekong played a massive part of that, but I think Tom Cleverley is being more humble than is in reality, and actually he played a massive part of that. We can see it in his energy on the pitch. We can see how much he gives, and it's one of those things where you'd think that, well, we know how much a packed Vicarage Road would appreciate some of the moments that he's put in the season, like the one that sort of is in my mind the most is the one against Huddersfield at home, where he chased down that loose ball, beat Schofield in goal. That is the absolute Tom Cleverley goal, chasing down a loose ball, fighting for a tackle, could have very easily got injured there. Just the desire, the energy to get there and to win it and to score. I think it just sums up Tom Cleverley absolutely perfectly. Like we've said, when he got injured against Wycombe, we weren't sure how the team could even move forward without him. We thought, oh, this could be the start of a slip. Of course, the team did well in his absence, but even when he was out, we started to think, oh, maybe it's starting to slip. He came back, as we've said, massive impact against Norwich. He's been an absolutely huge part of the season, absolutely instrumental, and he's shared the captaincy, deservedly so. And I think it goes under the radar how much the absence of Troy Deeney has luckily been hasn't been a problem.
Clev's has stepped up, hasn't he? He's
from a leadership perspective. We've got Tom Cleverley, we've got Nathaniel Chalobah. We've got a lot of leaders in there, not just the older players. Like I said, Nathaniel Chalobah, Daniel Backman, Francisco Sierralta has been named as another one. But I think Tom Cleverley's role in this season has been huge, and you could see how much it meant to him at the end of it all. When promotion was confirmed, we could see how he said he had a debt to repay Watford, I think it was. He was talking about the impact of that. A massively deserved winner, and I do think he's underrated.
100%, and I think you made a great point there about the captaincy, as we touched on with Troy. He hasn't played a lot this season. Tom Cleverley has stepped up on and off the pitch, setting an example to the rest of the squad. So Tom Cleverley, I think that's a very fair award for him to win. Underrated Player of the Year, presented by Mr. Hornet Shane, is Tom Cleverley. Moving on to team performance of the season, which is actually presented by myself, which is a bit weird. We're about 25 minutes in, and I'm like, okay, here we go, first award. Here we go. Team performance of the season. Sam, there's some big games on it. There's some big games. So we've got...
You made it difficult.
This is really difficult. So we've got Watford 4, Preston 1 for team performance of the season. Watford 1, Norwich 0. Stoke 1, Watford 2. Watford 6, Bristol City 0. Cardiff 1, Watford 2. Rotherham 1, Watford 4. And then Watford 3, Birmingham 0. And to wrap up, as we mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, Norwich 0, Watford 1. There is some big wins in there. Big wins at different points in the season. But there's a couple of those wins which you felt had been the catalyst for some really good spells of runs of wins for Watford. And in terms of how the voting was broken down, so team performance of the season, in third place with 4% was that 2-1 win against Cardiff at the Cardiff City Stadium. Adam Messina with that first free kick goal in 5 years, which lifted the roof off of pretty much every Watford fan's house.
Absolute carnage.
Absolutely. In second place, we've got, with 39% of the vote, Watford 6, Bristol City 0, which again felt like a catalyst for what was a great run of wins for Watford and a great run of form. And I think to beat Bristol City in the manner that we did was a massive statement to the rest of the league that we're on it now. And but it wasn't first place. The winner of team performance of the 2021 season for Watford was Norwich 0, Watford 1 at Carrow Road. And I think when we'll look back, as maybe there'll be like a season review, that was the moment I think we all felt as Watford fans that we were going to get promoted. The goal from Dan Gosling, which was a lovely goal, by the way, the assist from Pedro was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But the fact of the matter is, within the first 20 minutes, I think Dan Gosling had about 3 chances, and by the end of it, he had about 5 and scored 1. But look, it was a huge win for Watford, and I think the scenes at full time with Ismail Assar hugging the wallpaper with "Free from Desire" being blasted through the speakers said it all. I think Watford players knew, what Watford as a club knew, and as a fan base, that we were going to go up from that point. And I'll tell you what, just to bring it in there, Sammy, do you agree with the voting and the breakdown of that one? Yeah,
100%. I just want to, on the Norwich game, for me, the biggest shout out, I think, that day goes to Craig Cathcart. Thought he was, putting a massive shift at right back because Kiko was suspended, wasn't he, from the Luton game? And
Ngakia was injured.
Ngakia was injured as well. And I remember looking at the team sheet before the game, like Buendia against Cathcart or Cantwell against Cathcart. This isn't going to end well. and he was brilliant. I remember he was getting forward, overlapping Ismail Assar, which is difficult for any player in the league, let alone a normal centre half who's not the quickest. So it was brilliant that day, and the whole team performance. Just there was a game plan, it was executed perfectly, and yeah, just really, really, that was the game where I think it all but sealed it, and we could see the celebrations at the end.
Elliot, were you the same, mate? You thought at that point, like I think we tried to be we tried to not sit on the fence too much, but we didn't want to call it and then it come to bite us in the backside. But I think we all knew there was an underlying confidence with everyone that promotion is tantalisingly close now. Were you one of those guys?
Yeah. I think you can tell by the mood in the match reaction that we did that night that I think something was going to happen there, and that promotion seemed to be almost inevitable at that point. I think it says a lot about the performance that it managed to beat a 6-0 win at home. I mean, that's not easy at all. And I think it deserves to beat the 6-0 win at home. It was that good. Every player stepped up and played their part. It was a response to a really disappointing defeat at Luton, and it's not easy to bounce back from that. I think it could have easily been one of those things where you then go to the home of the champions elect. They win the champions, and you think, right, they're going to be well up for this. They're promoted, spirits are high, and then we beat them at their own ground. It's incredible, and I think it was difficult to expect. The way we started the game was amazing. I think when it got to that point, there's sometimes the thought of, do we drop off because we've been frustrated? We haven't quite got the goal, but then we got to half time, we kept up that tempo, kept up that quality. And then in the second half, we did it again, and we got the goal, and it was a great goal. It was a deserved goal. João Pedro, fantastic pass. And then Dan Gosling definitely deserved his goal at the end of it. Having about 5 shots at team call in the first half. But the whole team performance, obviously given the award, it was almost perfect, and every single player can say that they put in a good performance.
I think it was the only downside. The only downside to it was it should have been 5-0. Should have been 5-6. That's the only downside.
Yeah, because it was the team. I think we said it at the time. We thought this was the team performance of the season. But Shane, just to wrap up on this one, how much credit does Xisco Munoz deserve? Because he out-tactically, he won against Daniel Farke, one of the best head coaches in the league. Obviously, they went on to win the championship. They could have sealed the championship that day, but Xisco Munoz got the game plan absolutely bang on. Just a word on that, because Xisco masterclass, mate.
Do you know something as well? It takes balls, doesn't it, to go to, let's be honest, the champions elect. For me, I went into that game thinking, I'm not really expecting much, off the back of the Derby defeat. We need to kind of bounce back, but they know they're going to be champions if they win it. For me, I know we've touched on this already, but Craig Cathcart deserves such a huge amount of credit to silence, let's be honest, the best player in the league. Sorry, second best player in the league, obviously. In Emi Buendia, or fifth best person, depending on how biased to be. To be fair,
I'll tell you what, mate, you get away with it on this channel.
Exactly. No, and you know what? It takes a lot of effort to do that. Buendia being one, you had Cookie.
Is his Wi-Fi got overexcited again?
He mentioned Craig. What he did, he mentioned Craig Cafu, and the connection dropped. Shane, are you back, buddy?
That's because Cafu was actually here to actually block the entire connection, because that's on that Tuesday night. I'll tell you now. As I say, to keep Buendia, to keep Cookie quiet, to keep that backline quiet, to grind out such a massive win. I'm going to say this now. I know we've touched on that was the night whereby we became more confident. For me, my confidence was a couple of weeks earlier, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But was that the moment that the team, the fans will have had their own predictions, their own premonitions? But I think that was the night, as you guys have said, that the players, the coaching team really kind of realised that we could now do it. It is now so within our hands, and the results that came in later on that night, I mean, that was just the amount of energy that must have been flowing through those players. As I've said throughout this entire season, if you do the job early, you're able to reap the rewards later. My God, did we put in a shift? I mean, full credit has to go to Xisco, to turn up, to kind of put out a tactical mastermind against Daniel Farke. And Norwich have been a good team as well this season. Let's not take anything away from them. But that night was our night, and we thoroughly deserved the win.
Yeah, absolutely. So is the performance away at Norwich and the 1-0 win at Carrow Road. That is one team performance of the season. Sam, we're moving on to individual performance of the season. So I'll just read out the nominations. Ben Foster versus Blackburn Rovers at home. Sarr versus Bristol City at home. Chalobah versus Cardiff away. Bachmann versus Mill at home. Cleverley versus Norwich away. Sarr versus Reading at home, where he scored 2 absolutely beautiful goals. Hughes versus Bristol City at home. Deeney versus Stoke away. And then Sierralta versus Cardiff away. Sam, take it away, bud.
So, in third place, we have, with 10% of the vote, Nathaniel Chalobah away at Cardiff. The unbelievable goal he scored to drag us back into the game. I thought we were quite unfortunate to go 1-0 down. I thought we started the game really well. And, you know, it's those, you kind of need to take those risks where you kind of take the extra touch to get around the player to really define your season. And I thought he did that so well. Massive goal, and his all-round performance was superb. In second place, we have Ismaila Sarr with 17% against Bristol City at home in the 6-0 win. Something like, what was it, 2 goals and 3 assists or something?
That is unbelievable. What a player, mate.
Unbelievable. And he just
I actually felt sorry for Bristol City that day. I mean,
no, the one I felt sorry for Adrian Mariappa. That was the one I think he came in and absolutely rinsed him.
He could have had a hat-trick as well.
Yeah, exactly. Squared it to Philip Zinkernagel. Yeah.
PZ7 got his first goal.
And on the topic of Sarr, in first place with 44% of the vote, Sarr against Reading, as Jacob touched on, 2 unbelievable goals. And, you know, we will talk about both the goals later on, but I feel like that day we really weren't great. I remember Olise, Ajaria, Rinomhota really were overrunning us in the middle. We needed a player to take the game by the scruff of the neck and really take control. And when you've got a player with the quality of Ismaila Sarr in this league, it's those players you rely on. And that performance was absolutely superb. And, you know, season, you go as far as saying season defining. I know we got a lot of moments.
Yeah,
it's that game where we're not playing well and he scores those 2 goals. Brilliant.
Well, Aaron makes a great point here. As opposed to the Bristol City game where everyone was class on that day, Sarr versus Reading was a proper individual performance. As you mentioned, Sam, I think collectively we can all agree Watford were not good that day. But he scored 2 apps. I mean, I think it was the fact they were so quick after each other as well. And I think when it got to 2-0, you thought, right, we've got a cushion here that we should be able to see out with our defensive record as well. But we were so, well, we weren't great that day. I was going to say so great that day. We weren't great that day. But Elliot, I think you were at the game, weren't you, on that night? Yeah. Just from your perspective on Sarr's performance, just talk us through how good you thought he was at the time.
Yeah, I struggled not to get up out of my seat and celebrate when the second one went in. It was fantastic, and I was typing up a match report, typing up the exact details of the first goal, and I sort of have to look up and I'm like, he's through again, he scored. I was like, I have to keep up with what I remember. I had to put up an Instagram story for Vibe, and I actually had to put, sorry, missed the first one. It's 2-0 Watford, because it all happened so fast that I could not keep up with it. And yeah, he was just absolutely fantastic. I think Aaron put it very well in the chat. It was obviously Bristol City, everyone was incredible, but against Reading, he just switched it on 2 minutes. He probably could have come on in the 10th minute, done that, and then come off in the 20th minute. It was that good and probably still won the award. He was it was a marvellous performance, and he fully deserves the award. And I think that shows his quality, and hopefully we'll see plenty of that next season in the Premier League.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Shane, out of the 2 he scored that day, which was your favourite?
Oh, got to be the second one for me. I mean, what?
That's still travelling, mate. That's still travelling.
I think it was one of those, and I touched it on the last award, but I will now say it. That night when we did the match reaction, where we were all, just absolutely hyper. I'll never forget doing that match reaction, because that was the night where the energy was pulsating through me. I'd had a few, and to be quite honest with you, looking back at that moment, watching back the highlights, that was the night for me that I said to myself, we're going up automatically. It was that night. To put in the Easter weekend, the 1-1 draw at Middlesbrough was disappointing, so we had to bounce back on the Friday night. And I said it that night, and I'll say it again. The team doesn't need to necessarily perform on a night like that. Reading had some great chances, but we had one superstar in that team who basically guided us to the win and a massive 3 points. And the first goal was a sucker punch for Reading. The second goal just blew them out of the water. They had no answer. we rode our luck. I'm not saying we didn't. George Pushkas really should have scored for Reading at the other end. And, if that did go in, maybe, I'm watching the next, the second half from behind the sofa or something. And
just to jump in there, Shano, if we're making parallels with that 2014-15 season, that was the O'Grady header at Brighton.
Yeah,
that was. I think that was probably that's that patch of sand that took us up.
mate, the parallels to that 14-15 season are actually quite frightening, to be quite honest. And it's another one of those. The Easter Monday against Middlesbrough, having to get. Obviously, we won, of course, back in 14-15, but we needed to genuinely get a result on the Friday night. Reading were a side that were looking to increase their playoff hopes. Do follow a couple of Reading fans who were incredibly complimentary towards Watford on that night, but realised that actually that their game was up when it came to the playoffs, and it's ultimately ended up in that way as well. So no surprises really that is number one. And I've got to echo what Aaron said in that as well. Watford, Bristol City, everyone was on their game that day. The Bristol City left back still having nightmares now, frankly, about his mother's star, and he will do for the rest of his life probably. So,
just a side point as well. I'd love to raid Reading in the summer. I'd literally take half their players. I don't know how they finished outside the playoffs. Such good players in that team.
I think even players that go under the radar, like Josh Lauren in midfield or Andy Remoter, fantastic players. We'd have no chance of getting a lease. Lucas Jow will get his plaudits, but I don't think he'd be the right fit for Watford. But there's a lot of players in there that I'd love to have at Watford.
For sure.
A lot of players in the Championship. I really would not be against us just going on a Championship spending spree and just picking up players from clubs here and there.
Anyone from Brentford, Elliott's all over.
and Callum O'Hare as well. Callum O'Hare,
and Gustav Hamer, get him in.
And that ultimately highlights, doesn't it, why SARS won this award, because we've named all those Reading players and the team that we thought were actually going to turn up and potentially maybe even get a result at Vicarage Road. They didn't do that. And we lost at the Majewski. Things were a bit out of sorts back then. And it's a testament to Sarr, the fact that on his night, he managed to turn up. And that was a game I was genuinely very nervous for. And at the end of this season now, we can all sit and look back and say no team has done the double over us, which is just absolutely exceptional. I run out of words sometimes when I think about this team, but that is an exceptional thing. I didn't even know that until yesterday evening when I saw the stats. So, and Sarr, he turned up, wasn't the greatest game, but he's absolutely worth his weight in gold at the moment. So, I'm just hoping in the referee, watching him play, watching him get me off the seat. I want that more than anything else. He's the one guy. If we can keep him for next season, that will be the biggest bit of business I think that we can do. Because there'll be people sniffing around him like, man, we must keep him. He is our star man. He is our star man, isn't he?
Love it, Shano. That's superb. Individual performance of the season goes to Ismaila Sarr versus Reading in the 2-0 win at Vicarage Road. And before a couple of things before we move on. You mentioned the parallels of the 2014-15 season. I just wanted to bring this up. Watford Talk on Twitter. Make sure you go and give him a follow. Some really good content. He said 2014-15, Watford hire an unknown head coach with limited experience midway through a championship season. Starts fairly well, but calls for him to be sacked after a poor run of form before a big win turns the tide for the season and Watford get promoted.
Scary that.
2021. You could copy and paste it, couldn't you? You could copy and paste it. Before we move on to the next award, which is going to be presented by Elliot Murray, I believe. If you do enjoy the end of season awards and this video, please do leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe to WD18. Comment down below your thoughts as well, and make sure you do follow us on socials at WD18 fans and check out the lads on socials as well. The links will be in the description below. Elliot, I think is it you? Yeah, no, it is.
No, it's Elliot. I think.
No, it is Elliot. Yes, moment of the season. Now this is big. This is big. Okay, we're looking at the candidates. The candidates for moment of the season. So we've got Foster's penalty save versus Blackburn, where he went up to Adam Armstrong afterwards and basically told him how to score next time. Sarr's last-minute winner versus Stoke. João Pedro's winner. I mean, what a goal that was against Derby on the Friday night. Adam Messina's incredible tackle, probably of the season, versus Norwich. Adam Messina's incredible free kick versus Cardiff. Daniel Gosling's goal versus Norwich. Watford versus Rotherham. So not in terms of involving a player, but fans back in the stadium.
I'll just the thinking behind that one was obviously the first game back was Cardiff with the fans, but I was thinking the less said about that, the better. I don't really think we were shot on target that day, so I went with the Rotherham game, fans getting to see a win. And
nice. So fans back inside Vicarage Road. And finally, João Pedro's derby winner earlier on in the season against Luton. Elliot, take it away.
I'm surprised there are so many moments from the first half of the season, to be honest. How interesting that was. But suffice to say, they're the end of the season, that the big winners here. In third place, because my computer's frozen, I'm now looking on my phone. In third place is the Boxing Day win over Norwich when Adam Messina put in that incredible tackle with what seemed to be his sort of tip of his toenail even, I don't know, but
great refereeing, by the way. Great refereeing. He could have given that. Not that there was a foul, but he could have.
Yeah, it was it was Messina's first 5 minutes of the season as well, or something, wasn't it? That was his first game.
Back from injury.
Wow.
Yeah. And we knew we were missing left back wise because we hadn't had one until then. In second place, it's Dan Gosling versus Norwich, the goal that we mentioned earlier. Fantastic goal. João Pedro obviously deserves a lot of credit for the pass, but he deserved it, didn't he? A fantastic finish from Dan Gosling after he'd been knocking on the door for what seemed like
ages.
And then first place, I don't think it's up for debate. It was 1,778 days we waited for this moment, and it was in stoppage time against Cardiff at the Cardiff City Stadium. Adam Messina stepped up, put it past Dylan Phillips, and scored that free kick with 70% of the vote. It is an easy winner. It's an incredible winner, and it was a winner for Watford as well. And we knew that the scenes when it happened, we knew how big of a moment it was, how much we deserved it as well, because we'd been really going at it for the whole game, and we finally got our reward at the end of it. Again, thoroughly deserved. And like Jacob said earlier, I think it knocked the rooftop off most houses in Watford and around the world.
Yeah, as Sam confirmed, absolute limbs in the UCO household when that goal went in.
I'm saying, I came on the match reaction. My foot was. I remember. Because when that happened, right? Because you're not on the ground, I had no idea what to do, so I just kicked my door. I don't know why. My foot was absolutely gone. But no, I felt like that moment was because I know that we were coming into form and. It was playing against the Cardiff team. Mick McCarthy, I think he'd won 6 in a row at that point. And, we went 1-0 down, and Chalobah spoke about it earlier. His fantastic goal brought us back into it. And we had to win that day, I remember. And it was at that moment when Messina scored that goal, we were like, this is proper, because
the team spirit as well, Sam, with the celebrations.
The video at the end of Dan Backman going back into the tunnel with the massive come on, that kind of thing. Yeah, and just the whole unity and everything. It was unbelievable day, unbelievable moment, and probably the best moment in Watford lockdown, I'd say.
Sam, Shane, describe your emotions when Adam Messina scored that, mate.
I think this was the game, wasn't it, that Isaac Success and Andre Gray almost killed each other in like the tunnel. And Andre Gray came back, and Isaac was like, "Oh," it was a great moment, mate. Do you know, there was so much around after that goal of, you know what, this has been such a tough period for Watford fans. And on a very serious side note, that is, I celebrate every single goal when it goes in. It's not like Antonio Conte running down the touchline kind of celebration, but it is a celebration. But the Messina one was just a massive lion's roar, and I was double screening actually at the time because I had my favourite football roundup show and Final Score on, and Jason Mohammed, massive Cardiff fan, you could tell the moment that his heart broke when he had to announce that goal had gone in. So, because I'll be honest with you, I didn't see it coming. I saw free kick. I was like, right, okay, well, this is probably going to go over the bar, whatever, 1-1 draw. We'll probably take a point here and all that, yeah. And when it goes in, there's some dodgy keeping there, isn't there? I mean, we've got to point that out. But
Jay, we'll look over it, mate. We'll look past it.
It is an absolutely cracking on. I mean, we've just spoken about this, but that team huddled right by the touchline, everyone in there. I mean, that was such a monumental moment. That, I think, is where we kind of really saw how tight knit this team was. We're all in this together. We're all.
Mate, Do you know?
It was a motivational speech.
Honestly,
it's like at the Oscars, you know, when they cut their mic when they've done the acceptance speech. So.
I tell you what, as well is
Go on, mate.
I fondly remember at full time Sierralta going up to was it Morrison and started pulling.
Aidan Flynn wasn't it? Yeah. I mean, Sierralta went into the history books that day. But Shane, I was actually just going to jump in there because I think what I forget is that Messina had the cojones, as Troy would say, to actually shoot. Because I know a lot of Watford fans I read on, a lot of Watford fans said on social media, I wanted him to cross at the time. But he actually took it on, and yes, the keeping was questionable. But the celebrations at full time, I think we all knew from that point there was a real unity that Xisco Munoz and his coaching staff had built with this Watford team. And the scenes at full time were just injected into me. Unreal. We'll move on to the next award presented by Shane. Goal of the season. Goal of the season. And
wow.
just to read out the nominations for this one. So we've got João Pedro versus Derby, that curler into the top bin. Chalobah versus Preston, the volley. Chalobah versus Cardiff, where he danced through so many Cardiff players. Messina versus Cardiff. Sema versus Rotherham. Sar's first versus Reading. Sar's second versus Reading. And then Success versus Swansea. A late nomination for our success on the final day. Shane, break down the voting for us, buddy.
Well, it's been a tough season, isn't it? We've not been in the stands, we've not been in the crowd, we've not been at Vicarage Road, just witnessed some of these goals, but we've not been short of choices here, are we? Some cracking goals scored this season. In third spot, with 15% of the vote, it is Ismaila Sarr's second goal against Reading, one that I actually personally voted for as my overall goal of the season. It was a cracking strike, and as I've spoken about, the moment that I realised that promotion, we are going up automatically. A magical night and a great moment for Ismaila. Second spot for me, overall, 28% of the votes. This isn't my own one. 28% of the votes was João Pedro's goal against Derby County. Something out of absolutely nothing. I will always remember that game because it was a terrible first half. But second half was much better. I think it was actually our only shot on target in that entire game. And it was an absolute cracking goal. One game as well, actually, I think, and a moment for João in particular, whereby he been spotted as this young player, lots of potential, I'm sure lots of players, lots of fans in the Championship. Oh, well, what's so special about this guy? That's what's special about this guy. That is an absolutely unbelievable finish. To get 28% of the votes was very impressive, but I think in number one was a goal, 36% of the votes. The winner of the WD18 goal of the season is Nathaniel Chalobah's goal against Cardiff. 36% of the votes. I mean, it's just the technicality on that goal. I think that's what's going to get kind of lost in it a little bit, because it's very easy to go for João Pedro's one against Derby, as I've spoken about, a cracking strike from a fantastic cracking player. Sarr's goal smashed that beyond all. It's still, as Jacob said earlier, it's still going. I mean, but Chalobah's goal, that technicality to get it so quickly after Cardiff had scored, to bounce back instantly, quick bit of footwork, have a shot, 1-1, straight back in the game again. It's that Chalobah, the look on his face. He had it against Birmingham when he scored. That look of, come on, let's get on with it now. Come on, let's bounce back into it. Come on. And it was a galvanizing moment, I think. It kept us in the game ultimately. And the technicality of that, the way he shuffled it out of his feet, it's just, again, I watched all those goals again, actually, earlier this morning. And that one is still, how has he scored that?
At that point in the game as well. At that point in the game, Shano.
Yeah, absolutely. Going 1-0 down, an own goal, a knocking confidence, we roared straight back into that game. And we obviously know how it all finished with absolute limbs and Sam putting his leg on his door. So, and for that moment as well, of course, for that moment to even have existed, we needed to have Chalobah's fantastic goal, and he's more than worthy of winning that. I mean, a technically awesome goal.
Yeah, absolutely. As someone mentioned in the comments, 36 versus 28%. So that's quite close. I think it was someone mentioned in the comments about a lot of people said João versus Derby, and For me, I'd go Nate versus Cardiff because, as you mentioned, Shano, very eloquently about the footwork from Nathaniel Chalobah. You don't see that a lot. You do not see that a lot. And I think at that point in the game, he took the game by the scruff of the neck and got us back into it. And we wouldn't have had that Messina moment, as you mentioned, if it wasn't for Nate.
I don't know if this is unpopular. It might be incredibly popular. I don't know. But I don't think Nathaniel Chalobah tries that under Vladimirovic. I think that is a testament to how confident he was at that point. The form he was in and the talent he has, that he tries that, and it was almost instinctual the way he danced. It's like he almost anticipated their movements and chose to move a second before them. Yeah, incredible goal, worthy winner. It's making me reconsider because I did go João Pedro versus Derby, and I can.
Are you still sticking with that, Elliot? Are you still sticking with that, or?
I've seen a couple of. I know Shane mentioned that it takes a special bit of skill to do what Nathaniel Chalobah did, and I can understand that. And at the same time, I think I scored a similar one at Power League a couple of days later. Not to the Chalobah one.
Other AstroTurfs are available, by the
way. So I think for talent, I think Chalobah's one does edge it. But I think it was more the anticipation with the João Pedro one. It was like, it was a rubbish game. I know Shane said that the second half got better. It was a poor game, and it did just need one moment of brilliance, one moment of magic, and then we saw Ben Wilmot make that marauding run forward and just play in João Pedro, and then he just out nothing. And it's like, that was the payoff that Watford fans wanted. We'd heard about this young Brazilian teenager we'd signed from Fluminense. You know, we're having ideas of Richarlison again, and we were like, oh, there's all that anticipation of a player that we were going to get, and then it was all worth it when he stuck that in the top corner. I think that's why it's still my top goal, but the Chalobah one is a worthy winner in its own right as well, and I can completely understand why that's won.
Jacob frozen?
I'm here.
I think Jacobs is frozen now.
You know what? I did. I put the Sars goal against Reading as my number one, because I think personally for me, it was the moment where, first of all, I wasn't expecting him to have a shot like of that caliber again. Yeah. Like, he'd already done it once. To do it again. I mean, twice in the game, and that again, as I say, it was the moment where I kind of believed that we were going to go up automatically, and I think that's kind of why I put it as my number one. But Chalobah technically to score that, I think, was fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant.
As you say, Elliot, the João Pedro goal against Derby, it was a terrible game. I mean, the highlight of the game, aside from the goal, was probably the Courier that I had in the first half. Because, like, it was those kind of games, and I remember kind of thinking about this because I remember actually tweeting after that game, being like, these kind of games are very scrappy. They're not brilliant. They're not great, to watch, but they're the games that you need, the results that you need to kind of grind out promotion. And that's exactly what it was. A moment of magic. The same as Sars, a moment of magic, or 2 moments of magic. And, well, we're sitting here now reaping the rewards of that, aren't we? And, just an amazing moment.
Just a general question as well. Because I know, Elliot, you mentioned about Chalobah wouldn't have tried that under Vladimirovic, and here he is. He's back.
I'll tell you what, apologies. You know what? I was just there. Have you done the player of the season yet, mate?
No.
We couldn't do it without you.
Yeah, I was about to ask.
Sorry, guys. I was again. I mean, me and Shane are kind of in tandem at the moment. We're trying to build up the suspense as much as possible. Apologies to everyone who's. We've had a couple of technical difficulties tonight, but thankfully, no technical difficulties on the pitch. Smooth. Right, we'll move on to the final award, the Player of the Season award. Just to jump in there. This is the big one. This is the one that we're all looking forward to. Well, I think we will. It was a bit more anticipation. Unfortunately, Elton has revealed who it actually is. But look, we're gonna do our own WD18 Player of the Season, and these are the nominations. So let us know in the comment section who is your Player of the Season. Sierralta, Daniel Bachmann, Kika Feminea, Tom Cleverley, Will Hughes, Nathaniel Chalobah, João Pedro, Ismail Assar, Ken Sema, Ben Foster, William Troost-Ekong, and Adam Messina are all on the list that you could have picked from. Now, breaking down the vote, up first, in third position, with 19% of the vote, Francisco Sierralta. And that is quite incredible considering he didn't play the first half of the season. I mean, that is just shows the impact Francisco has had on this Watford team. And I think it's very fair that he's in contention for it, because I don't think I guess the whole point of the player of the season is it should be from right at the start to the end. And Sierralta did come through halfway through the middle, but defensively, he has been the rock, the monster in the air. He dominates strikers, and he's in third position. Moving on to second spot, we have Ismaila Sarr. Ismaila Sarr with 32% of the votes. Now, I think for the big moments, as we've already mentioned, with the individual performances, with the goals that he scored, Ismaila Sarr had to be in there. He's played so much football for Watford this season and deserves a break over the summer, because this guy has been kind of ran into the ground, but his pace, his trickery, big goals, big moments, and he's a big player for us. And fingers crossed we can keep him into next season, because he is an asset for Watford. So dangerous down that right-hand side. And that connection he has with Kiko Femenia at right back is, I think we can all agree, the best combination in the Championship. I think it caused a lot of Premier League teams problems. But I think this season we've seen the way those two link up. I don't think they can both speak English, actually, but they speak the language of football, and you can tell, because they are being absolutely fantastic.
Poetic stuff, Jacob. They speak the language of football.
And Sierralta in third place, 19% of the vote. Second place, Ismaila Sarr with 32% of the vote. And I've just mentioned his name. In first place, the player of the season, the WD18 player of the season, is Kiko Femenia with 37% of the vote. Kiko is the player of the season. You know what? It was always going to be tight between Kiko and Sarr, but that right-hand side, as I just mentioned, has been a massive asset for Watford this season. And the way those two link up has been fantastic. But Kiko, I think he played the first game of the season, didn't he, against Middlesbrough? And he's just continued his form the whole way through, played pretty much every game. The commitment he showed at Nottingham Forest, the way to miss the birth of his child to play. He said pretty much from the start, when there was speculation, I think there was going to be some interest from Spain. I think there was some interest from Russia. And he made it pretty clear, I want to stay with Watford and I want to get Watford back to the Premier League. And he did that. And he's been a consistent performer for us this season. And in my opinion, deservedly a winner of the Player of the Season award. Let's just get your thoughts first off, Sam. Do you agree with that? Are you a Kiko Femenia advocate for the Player of the Season award?
Yeah, I can't argue with it. I mean, I personally voted for Tom Cleverley. I know he didn't make the final three, but talking about Tom earlier, I just thought he kind of sets the tone. But Kiko, the season as a whole, consistently from day one to, unfortunately when he got injured against Millwall, unbelievable in pretty much every game he played. The relationship he built up with Ismaila Sarr was just so good. And any kind of left back in the league or left winger was terrified of them. Going forward, particularly, and defensively he was so good as well, and putting a shift at left back when we were kind of limited in that area at the start of the season. So can't argue with that, and it just shows the level of season that Sarr and Kiko both had. To have them as the top two is brilliant.
Elliot, I think you mentioned your player of the season is Kiko, is that right?
Yeah. It's not a comfortable one because there are a lot of nominees, and like Sam says, the fact that Tom Cleverley doesn't get into that top three shows how good the performances have been of so many individuals in that Watford squad. There are players like Ken Semmer as well that I think deserve a shout. He's played pretty much every.
I don't think so, Elliot. Sorry, just to jump in there. Ken's one. I was just thinking we've hardly mentioned him today on this video.
Yeah.
It's just he's been the only player we haven't spoken about. He's been brilliant this season. I know he's dropped off a couple of times, but he's played pretty much every single minute. He deserves this summer holiday, and massive shout out to Ken there.
And actually, when he put that ball into Andre Gray and got the assist, I realised just how many assists he's got. I haven't seen the exact number, but he's made so many assists this season that he filled in at left wing back. He's played everywhere on the left and played really well in every position, everywhere that he was put to play. Vladimirovic played him everywhere, and then Xisco Munoz relied on him as well. But Kiko Femenia is another one that is absolutely deserving of the award, ever present in the Watford team this season. Like Sam said, he's had to play on the left, he's had to play on the right, he had to miss the birth of his child in a 0-0 draw at Nottingham Forest, and I think that's commitment. He's just been fantastic, and I think last season he was good. I don't think he was great last season. He was really good in a particular stint under Nigel Pearson, where he was actually at left back, and it was good to see that he could replicate those performances at left back when relied on by Vladimirovic. And he's just been a constant in this Watford team this season. I don't think there can be many arguments as to him being the player of the season. I can understand the other shouts, but he's just been so consistent from day one, like say against Middlesbrough, and gutted to see him pick up the injury. I hope he'll get the pre-season under his belt and he'll be the starting right back next season. And then we've got Jeremy Ngakia as well as competition. So there's a lot to look forward to in that position on its own, and a lot generally to look forward to. Yeah,
well said, Elliot. And Shane, just on your perspective, who's your player of the season? Do you agree with the votes?
This was the one whereby I actually didn't really mind who won it, if I'm honest with you. I know that sounds a bit weird for player of the season because it's like the biggest, but I think they all deserve like a big shout out, to be honest with you. My personal one was the Chilean Maldini in Sierralta. I just think he's been terrific at the back. He's that vocal leader we've needed for so long. One of the, if not the best defender we've had in the Pozzo era. And again, I've said it before, and I'll say it again, to have just come in January to even be in contention for player of the season, you've got to be one hell of a player for that to even have happened. So I think from that perspective, that was kind of my vote. But Kiko has, he was so unselfish to miss, as we've said, that takes a hell of a lot of commitment. The number of matches that you play, he missed the birth of his child. It would have been difficult for him to get back. Cisco as well. He's not seen his kids as well since.
And Gosling too. Now. I think missed the birth of his child.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's full credit to those guys who have who've had to kind of sacrifice a lot of that to be a part of something much bigger. And it would have been very easy for Kiko to say, "Sorry guys, I'm not going to be here," and to have left what would have been a big gap actually at right back because of the injury problems and all that. And we still had them at that time and all of that. But no, I think Kiko is such a worthy winner of this award. His link-up play with Sarr has been terrific throughout the season. He's been a key part of the goals down that right-hand side. The right-hand side where we've looked so dangerous throughout this entire season. And you know what? As I say, he deserves a hell of a lot of credit. He committed himself to Watford as well. It could have been very easy for him to say, "Do you know what? I don't really want to be here. I want to go back to Spain. I want to go and play Premier League football. I want to go up to like another division higher." But no, he didn't. He stayed, committed himself this season, and he is now sitting at home, I'm sure, enjoying family time and reaping the rewards of this fantastic season for him. Shout out to Kiko. Great effort this season.
Absolutely, Shane. And Aaron makes a fantastic point in the comment section, which I forgot about because it was in August. But let's remember that Ngakia won the first Player of the Month award. That is a testament to Kiko. And that is unbelievable when you actually think about it, because Jeremy was so good when he came in, but Kiko Feminier kind of just, the bar he set was unbelievable. How consistent he was as well. I think he's a worthy winner.
That's a great dynamic to have. You've got a young Jeremy Ngakia who has actually barely put a foot wrong this season. So I feel a bit bad from the fact that he's not really had much game time, but he's got someone to learn from in Kiko Feminier moving forward and defensively. There's a role model there. Kiko clearly knows what he's doing, hence why he's won this prestigious award. But yeah, for Jeremy Ngakia, it's a big season ahead. I don't
big
see
big future.
I see no reason why he'd be loaned out. He should be kept. He should be the second choice right back fighting for the first spot. I think he's got the potential to really push Kiko. And we've always said how important that competition is. And if they keep pushing each other further, a bit like Backman and Foster have done, I think we've got a really good right-hand side for next season as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So player of the season, the WD18 player of the season is Kiko Feminier. A big shout out to Sam, who set this all up, by the way. Sam, absolute legend. Elliot, it's been a pleasure. Shano. Yeah, really enjoyed it. It was quite good. Really good. When you look back on the season, you realise what a roller coaster actually has been, because we've had some real ups and some downs as well. But I just wanted to say a massive thank you to Charlotte in the comment section, who says, special mention for WD18 and team of the season. Made this difficult year so much more enjoyable. Thanks, guys. Really, really do appreciate that, Charlotte. It's very kind of you. And Caroline as well, massive shout out. One more award to WD18 for providing us with top quality content and entertainment throughout the season. Rudy, top man. Dan,
lad, Rudy.
Legend. Just wanted to say on behalf of everyone here, a massive thank you to everyone who's got involved with our content this season on all of our social platforms. The growth of the channel has been absolutely amazing to see. And hopefully we've managed to bring Watford a bit closer to you while we've been at home. It's been an unprecedented time for everyone, but this has been a constant for myself and a constant for the guys as well. So massive shout out to everyone who engaged with our content, got involved, subscribed, comments as well. The amount of comments we've had and so many kind messages, we really, really do appreciate it. And look,
the end of the season. That's just no more Watford games for 3 months, which is so weird to think about.
That's us now done for 3 months. So
just on that, I saw a comment on from someone in the chat from Michael on our content in the closed season. If you want any recommendations, just send us over a message for what you want to see in the summer. I imagine we'll have a preview. Jacob is going to bring the whiteboards back out. That is coming soon.
Someone just mentioned that in the comment section. They said, "Are you doing a keep or sell Cormac?" Cormac, silly question, mate. Of course I'm doing a keep or sell. Of course I am. But
back at the Vic next season as well, hopefully. So it'll be good to see, finally back at games with people. But hopefully these match reactions will continue. And thank you to Jacob as well for, carrying it pretty much since the lockdown.
Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure this season. A massive shout out to Sam, Elliot, Shane. These guys have been absolutely fantastic this season. And a pleasure to do the videos with these guys. Real top guys. But that's where we're going to wrap it up. That's the end of season awards here on WD18 2021 edition. Watford, a Premier League. We're back in the big time. How good does that sound? And look, we're buzzing for next season. We're buzzing to do more content here on WD18. As I said, if you did enjoy today's video, please do leave a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to WD18. Comment down below your thoughts. And we'll see you very, very soon next season as a Premier League club. Vamos!